Hello. It's about lunchtime. It's not like early in the morning. I had a little bit of a busy morning, and then I was like, I'm going to have to wait until like lunch before I do my thing. I still have a little bit, just a little bit of my stuff left. So good. Okay, song. In the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, give me Jesus, give me Jesus, give me Jesus. You can't have all this world. Give me Jesus. Good morning, sort of. So today's episode is brought to you by the verse in Malachi 3:15. It's at the end of the New Testament. I think, what's after Malachi? I think Malachi is the last verse. Malachi is the last book of the Old Testament. So go to Matthew and then boop, boop, go back like 2 pages. Malachi has 4 chapters. Okay. Malachi was a messenger and a prophet. And the summary of Malachi basically is that like 100 years had passed. I'm going to read to what it says. 100 years had passed since the return of the Jews to Palestine. The city of Jerusalem and the second temple had been built, but initial enthusiasm had worn off. Following a period of revival under Nehemiah, the people and priests had backslidden and become mechanical in their observance of the law. Though lax in their worship and delinquent in their tithing, they could not understand why God was dissatisfied with them. Malachi rebuked the people for their neglect of the true worship of the Lord and called them to repentance. Here's the thing. So I read all 4 books because they're not that long. And I made some notes. Let me tell you what the verse says. Chapter 15. So now we call the arrogant blessed. Not only are the doers of wickedness built up, but they also test God and escape. I know that sounds like, what? All right, so let me tell you. The people have backslidden. They've been giving defiled sacrifices. The priests have been giving defiled sacrifices. The priests also were showing partiality in how they administered the law to people. There was no goodness in their worship of God, you know? And they weren't tithing. And God says in here, why are you robbing from me? I was like, oh. Anyway, it says they weren't tithing. They were getting divorced. They were marrying heathens and basically marrying into the worship of those false gods, you know. So they weren't just marrying heathens, which was not what they were supposed to be doing, but they were marrying into like the worship of those heathens gods or whatever. See what else to say. Oh, okay. So here's the other thing I wanted to say. Let me show you an example. They go through this thing, and throughout the whole thing, God says stuff like, you're robbing from me. And they're like, how are we robbing from you? And he's like, you're speaking like curses and bad things against me. And they're like, how are we doing that against you? What are you talking about? And he's like, he does this whole thing where he's like, you're defiling your sacrifice. What are you talking about? Like, so he goes through this whole thing, and the people keep asking God, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, they're confused. This is the part about Malachi that I thought was so funny, is that they were so confused about why God was upset with them, right? And God tells them, this is what you did. They're like, how did we do that? I don't know. You just got to read it because I'm not doing it justice, but it just really cracked me up. Let me give you a good example. Let me see if I can find one where they're like, what do you mean? Find a good one. Let's see. Oh, anyways, I'm gonna be I'm trying to find one, and now I'm not gonna find a good one. But anyway, doesn't matter. It's funny. Read it. They're like, how did we do that? And then there's another question. You defiled me. How did we do that? You robbed from me. How did we do that? Anyway, whatever. So it's good. So I was reading through it, and a couple of things that I noticed were that backsliding is subtle, I think. I think backsliding is subtle. It's like they had the temple rebuilt and all of these different things, and time had passed and they got lazy. I think backsliding is subtle because we get lazy, and because we get lazy in doing good and in seeking God, and we get distracted and deceived that the world's offerings are better. Like the enemy lies to us with this like fear of missing out. Like, having a relationship with God is going to be bad for you because you're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on all the good stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I spent a lot of time believing that kind of lie. And the reality is that's just false. You're missing out on partying. Oh, really? I'm missing out on hangovers and feeling miserable about myself and like I can't even function the next day. I don't think so. You're missing out on hooking up. Really? So I can feel like totally devalued and not good about myself because it's not with, my husband and someone who loves me? I don't think so. Like, it's a lie about all the stuff you're missing out on, and it's subtle by filtered Instagram posts and all the stuff. And so over time, like the Israelites just started backsliding. They robbed from God. They didn't tithe. They married heathens, and they started worshiping other false gods. They defiled their worship, their sacrifices. So they had these guidelines around what kind of sacrifices they were supposed to give. And they didn't. They gave like dirty, crappy sacrifices. And God was like, let me just get this straight. Would you give that to your governor? And let me get this straight. Would you think it's okay to sacrifice a blind man? And they were oppressing the widows and orphans and stuff. And he's like, but you think it's okay to give that to me, the God of the universe, the God who created you, the God who has, the heavens and the universe in the span of my hand, and the depths of the ocean in the palm of my hand. That is how big I am, and that's who I am. I created you in your mother's womb. I made your days and the good works for you. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and to give you hope in a future. I sent my son, my one and only son, to be beaten and spat on and torn apart and die a terrible death so that you could be restored to me. But somehow, inexplicably, you want to rob from me and you want to give me crappy sacrifice. I was like, trouble. I was just like, but can I just tell you? See what else I wrote down here? I think God, in here, it was like God would rather have no worship than corrupt, defiled, lazy, dirty worship. He'd rather have no worship. The thing about it, when I was going through this, as I was like, man, you guys are terrible. I was like, but you know what? I spent a lot of years doing all of these exact things. Why aren't you blessing me, God? Why am I not being blessed? Why are things so difficult? I mean, I pray, I this, I that, but I wasn't concerned at all about the heart of the matter of what I was actually offering to God. And then I was confused, just inexplicably, about why he wasn't blessing me. So, this was a really good one. I mean, I'm nowhere perfect. I have a lot of issues. But I think this comes down to the heart of the matter, right? Seeking God just every day. not being concerned with your neighbors and not being concerned with being showy or, impressing people or whatever. I think this comes down to like, I don't care what people think about me. I don't care how I look to other people. And I don't care. What I care about is how I look to God and my heart with Him and doing good for other people. And just like doing that again every day. You know what I mean? And getting better and less concerned with the world and having more peace inside because I'm not hanging on to the lies of the enemy. I'm hanging on to the truth of God and who He says that I am. That is a peace that passes understanding, not as the world gives, but as He gives, that I might not be afraid and live my life afraid. But I think that we go through life wanting to look like the, mom on TikTok who's making all the special food in her booby shirt and like a glass of wine. I just can't even. She needs Jesus too. Okay? I don't want to live being led by the enemy and the lies that I'm somehow missing out by loving God, because I am not. I am not missing out. But I want my heart and the things that I offer to God, I want Him to look at that and be happy about it. Not look at it and be like, well, it's half-ass, it's dirty, it's corrupt, and you don't really love me. You're lazy in how you love me. I would rather you not worship and not offer that to me at all. I don't want Him to say that to me. So, anyway, I thought this was good. This is all about the heart of the matter. This isn't about your friend. This isn't about your neighbor. We're not going to get to heaven one day and be like, oh, but Joe down the street said. This is about you and your heart and your relationship with God. And what does that look like? Do you have one? You should. You don't have to pray special prayers. You don't got to have special words. You don't got to be whatever. God, I need you. Jesus, I need you. I need you to show me who you are. I need peace. I need something. You've got to help me. Sometimes the best thing I can do is, Jesus, help. That's literally like when I'm starting to panic. Jesus, help me. You don't have to have special, magical, whatever, and you don't got to go to a pastor or a priest, although you should go to a church, the Bible-based church, because Jesus died specifically so you could go directly to God. And you should. And you don't got to go to Him perfect, but you do need to go to Him just honest. And that's the thing too about these Malachi, is when I'm reading through it, it's not just about the heart of the matter, but like being honest. Like, God, I'm struggling. God, I feel weak. Or God, this is what I have in my emotional state to give you right now. This is all I have. He wants you exactly where you are, right? Exactly where you are. So, all right, I gotta go. I love you guys like a crazy person. Pray for me as I pray for you. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, it's Thursday already. I hope you have a wonderful, I'm putting my hair up while we talk. I hope you have a wonderful week and be good to one another. Don't forget, this is what happens. After, it's not down very long, but then at some point I'm irritated. I'm irritated with it on my neck. Listen, don't forget to be good to one another. And you are, wow, ooh. Woohoo! Yes! You are one of the one another's. Don't forget to be good to yourself. I love you, and I mean it, peanut. Mwah.